Hi, this is Catherine. This is Taking Tea with Catherine. This is Scottish Morn Tea from Harney and Sons in a MacDonald clan cup and saucer. It's a family name. I don't think my family's directly of the clan, but I'm not going to do all the research because no time. But anyway, one of the reasons I'm using this is because I'm doing a wrap-up for Victober, and of course we know during that time, Queen Victoria was very into Scottish stuff altogether, visiting the culture, etc. So it doesn't hurt. But also because I am mourning Sean Connery, very sad. I was never into James Bond. So you may say, what do you care? But there were so many other films that he made that growing up, that I used to watch with my parents, etc. So it brings back a lot of memories. So thought I'd do my tiny little tea time tribute to him. Even though the Scottish Morn, M-A-O-R-N, M-O-R-N, it could also be M-O-U-R-N. We're very punny, aren't we? And it's a nice tea. I'm having it without milk for once, but usually it's the type of thing I'd probably have with milk. But I made it well enough, so can do without. Anyway, so I thought I'd talk a little bit about the month of October 2020 and how I did. And it depends on how you approach success. Reading Victorian novels, did I do that? I sure did. Did I read all the Victorian novels that I intended to its completion? No. So if I meant to read all the books to their completion at the end of October, that was in my TBR, no, I didn't. However, I read in all of those books and will continue with the unfinished books. So it kind of gives me something to look forward to, because there are three books really that I didn't finish. Oh, it's got cat hair on it. This apartment is like full of dust and cat hair and tea, I guess. So, Shirley was like a group read this month, and so I was pretty excited about that because I've been wanting to read Shirley for so long, and I got about halfway through, because this also has the professor in it, so there's a little chunk of this that's the professor, which I probably will read at some point, who knows when. And I really liked it, but I think there just was a lot of concentration on Jane Eyre for me. So, excuse me, my allergy's a little bad, so I'm not crying. You're crying. But anyway, now, if you saw my last check-in when I mentioned about Jane Eyre, you might have thought, oh, she didn't really quite like Jane Eyre as well as we might have hoped, whoever we is. And honestly, I tried to like Jane Eyre, and but there was also part of me that didn't want to count it as a favorite, because it's just so popular as a favorite book for so many people. Even people who aren't not big readers will say, oh yeah, but Jane Eyre is great. So there was a part of me that wanted to resist, but I also don't want to be contrary just to be contrary. If it's good, it's good. Like, for instance, there are books that are well known as classics. I always use the example of Moby Dick. I have not read Moby Dick, and I probably never will. But when you mention Moby Dick to somebody, there are people who really like it. I know that, and it's still well known for a reason. But when you say something like Jane Eyre, Pride and Prejudice, those kind of books, people's eyes light up, usually. You get the occasional person who doesn't look like it, but that's okay. So there has to be a reason why so many people who are either big readers and not big readers love Jane Eyre. So I didn't want to dislike it just to dislike it. And I didn't dislike it. I really did like it. But I just thought, oh, I was going to like it more. In the approximate week or so since I finished it, I didn't watch any adaptations. I was well into reading other books at that point. But I did keep thinking about Jane Eyre. And I kept thinking, wow, you know what? That was really good. That quote, I did actually like Jane Eyre more than I thought. So maybe I think I just needed time for it to settle in. I definitely think that Jane Eyre is probably one of the better books I've read this year. And I'm glad about that. The only thing, this is a criticism for all Charlotte Bronte books, if I could have been hovering over her shoulder, I would have said, please, with the French already. Come on. Enough. I understand some people understood French at that time. I understand people nowadays understand French. I know that some of the novels have appendixes or whatever that, or footnotes that will have the translations, but I'm like, do we have to do this work? Nah. Okay, we know you speak French. This is not against the French language, by the way. I think it's beautiful. I would love to be able to speak and read French, but actually, I think I read French almost better than I speak it, because reading it is, for me, it's just easier to understand. Just the words, still not fluent either way. So I'm like, Charlotte. And also sometimes she uses vocabulary in English that's just like, okay, do I have to keep a dictionary next to me? AKA my smartphone, Google. But anyway, otherwise it's, love it. Liked it so much that on a very recent trip to Book Off, yes, I tried to resist, but it didn't. I found they suddenly in their classic section, someone must have brought in a bunch of these penguin drop caps. It's hard to say for me anyway. And I saw quite a few that were books that I just didn't want to read, or books that I had read and already have one copy or two copies and don't need any. But I remembered that much as I, liked being able to read Jane Eyre in a paperback, this book is getting worn out already. And I had only read through it once. Someone else probably read it beforehand because it was a used book. But I'm like, this may not last. And I thought, I did kind of like the idea of the drop cap editions. I don't like to collect just to collect, usually. But this was like about $5. And so I thought, that's pretty good. This may be the slightest mark on the bottom. Very slight. It's like only people like me will see it. And it's got a nice big B in the front. It kind of reminds me of Anne Boleyn, or my sister Bonnie, or any other thing with a B. I always like the letter B. I kind of like it better than C, which is my initial. But whatever. I don't know where I'm going with this. So I just got this. And I don't know if I'm going to keep collecting. I probably won't. But if I do come across something in the $5 range, again, that is a book that I want, then there you go. This will have a friend. But, so yes, I did like it enough to, it's still got a sticker on it, to get to get a nicer edition of it. I don't know if it's the best edition of it, but it was a nice one. The red seems a bit strong, but I was also kind of like, well, fire is a big factor in there, and kind of, I don't know. Connections. Oh, this is a good tea, with or without milk. Okay, so yeah, so that Shirley is pretty much as good, if, who knows, I might even end up liking it better than Jane Eyre. Jane Eyre just really flew. Also, I carried it with me a lot when I went to the parks. I took nice walks whenever the weather permitted it, and I went to parks and sat down and read, so this was kind of a hard one to schlep. So I will continue to read this. And I've already talked about these books already, but, I finished The Moonstone by Wilkie Collins. I did a tea and mystery about it. Excellent book. I had my criticisms, but it's still a very good recommended book. I finished Tenant of Wildfell Hall, which is another one that I recommend, even though it took me forever to read. And well, this was not a Victorian novel, but I totally say go for it if you can get a copy. So the other two books that I didn't finish are, this is probably my bigger disappointment. When I say disappointment, not that the book was disappointing, it's just that I got up to page 64. And this book actually is, let's see, the actual book, we're talking north and south. So the actual book goes up to, where are we? Not even 400 pages. Just almost 400 pages. And then there's, so that's, you see this here. And then there's all this that's context, other writings, some of Gaskell's, some others of the time having to do with the subject, which actually could work in a future Victober if I need to read other types of things, essays or whatever. So I'll try to remember that. So I feel like I've gotten further than I could have. But the fact that this was like my first Victorian novel, I started in October and then I didn't get very far, is disappointing, especially because this was one that I've been wanting to read for so long. C'est la vie. But, oh my goodness, I'm speaking French. Stop me, I've been reading too much Charlotte Bronte. And then, of course, the Pre-Raphaelites, which I can just carry right into Nonfiction November if I want to, or keep going. That only was disappointing because I had thought maybe I'll do a whole video on the Pre-Raphaelites. But that I could do any time, really. Or I could wait till next October. But it is one of my obsessions. I don't know obsessions, but very much interested in. So I would like to maybe spend a little more time getting together some video about my love, not for trucks, for pre-Raphaelite art, etc. I mean, I've talked about it already in this channel, but I mean, I could keep talking about it. So there you go. Yeah. So that's the point by that. So again, not just speaking to myself, I'm also speaking to all of you who participate in Victober. I watched different people's videos. Some were really good, and some were just enjoyable in general. I didn't really do a particular video talking about which videos I liked because I don't know. Again, no energy. But quite a few people put a lot of effort into making really informative and just fun videos. Some of the host videos were amazing, but plenty of other booktubers put a lot of input into this month, and I really enjoyed that too. But I did notice among some people on booktube and also on other aspects of social media, Instagram, etc., some people felt a little bad that they didn't quite reach their goals for this month, or some people felt like I know October's ending, but I feel like I'm not quite done with Victorian novels. Well, here's a few things. Number one, I mean, I think it would be a great thing to, participate in Nonfiction November, because now you could choose to, I should say, read also more about Victorian times, about Victorian novels in nonfiction form. So it's a great supplement. But as the year ends, December, January, imagine 2020 is over. Oh my goodness. But anyway, as you get into winter months, for instance, I mean, any time of year, but especially the cold months, in my opinion, at least this part of the world, it's the cold months. But whatever months you choose, if you feel that you've either been a regular reader of Victorian novels before, or you're just getting started and you feel unfinished, you may have liked a lot of these books, but you may have not had time to read all of them, or you just read a few and then you want to keep going, but Victober is over. It's never over. I mean, Victober is just a concentrated form of reading. All year long, it could be great. So if you, like in my case, I want to finish North and South. I want to finish Shirley. I want to finish Dombey and Son, which I started last year, and I want to continue with more Dickens because there's a few more that I really want to read. I want to keep going with Trollope, who I didn't read at all this month, and I felt the gap because my sister was reading Framley Parsonage without me, but I felt like I missed out a little bit, But I'll read it, and I'm pretty sure I'll enjoy it because so far I've not been disappointed with Trollope. So yeah, I mean, this to me gives me something instead of feeling like I didn't quite accomplish what I meant to accomplish. First of all, in 2020, I didn't accomplish almost anything that I meant to accomplish. When I do my wrap up for the year, if I refer to my kind of reading goals for the year, there's going to be plenty of things. Like, I did not pick up one Russian classic that I plan to, or many other things that I plan to read at all. So, among other things, that's not even counting non-reading goals. So, I mean, the fact that you read it all in October is doing better than so many people. So, give yourself a pat on the back, and then look forward to the future reading if you can. There's so much to read. Anyway, so yes, instead of being down on things or feeling like, oh, this is over, just keep going. Just read what you want to read. If this is something that you've enjoyed, keep going. If it's something that you weren't into, don't feel like you're a terrible person either. If you said, I want to read more classics, therefore I'm going to get involved in Victober because, Victorian classics are like the be-all and end-all. It might not be for you. You may read you may have tried a couple of different Victorian writers and said, nothing is settling with me, and all the recommendations just don't do it. I just don't like them. Maybe focus on a writer from the 1920s, or the 30s, or the 70s. Things that could be considered classics now, but aren't necessarily that far back. Different language, different anything. So, you know, if you gave it a shot, you gave it a shot. Anyway, so that's my little kind of wrap up slash maybe pep talk for the month. Slightly whiny, but not entirely. I didn't really watch any adaptations. I don't know. I just didn't really feel up to it for some reason. I don't think I watched any adaptations. I don't recall doing so. Toward the end, when I could have maybe read a little more in one of these books, like Shirley, at least, maybe I did read a little more this week. But I started gravitating toward my nonfiction, so I felt that pulling me away from Victorian novels at this point. But again, I completed 3. This is nothing to be ashamed of. So here's to next month. Plenty of nonfiction reading, maybe writing for some people. NaNoWriMo's coming up. And December is another month. So we'll talk about that another time. I'm rambling now. So that's all for now. Let me know in the comments how you've been doing, how you've been feeling, if you felt like I have. Pretty good about the month, but also felt some needs of improvement, but whatever. I don't know. So this is Catherine taking tea with Catherine. Have a lovely tea and book and anything you want filled day. Goodbye.